Do Mark.
How are you, Alan?
I'm very well, thank you.
I'd just like to say about this royal family business. I think it's scandalous that this Queen Mother should still be head of main cap. You know, when she's all her cousins in there and her nieces banged in.
Well, first of all, it's not all her cousins. It was just two.
Well, two of them there.
Here we join one of the many wallaby species, or volleys as they call each other. Now, as you can hear, he's thumping the ground. This he normally does only when he gets alarmed, but this time he's getting excited. What that? I shall tell you. No, it's not a female wallaby. He's reading a copy of the new Lancashire car buyer, and he's just realized he no longer needs to be a wally, driving a clapped-out old jalopy, but can be like a kangaroo and own a brand new car. Whatever the car, old or new, look first in the Lancashire car buyer. It's 30p and at your newsagents now.
Howdy, Stuart.
Hello, Alan.
Hello.
I'd like to talk about the unemployed, please.
I should take all night. There's a lot of them. Go on.
Well, I don't think any of them want to work, actually. I think they're all lazy. You know, it said so in the Sun newspaper, and
Well, in that case, it must be untrue.
Yeah,
That's the biggest lying rag I've ever heard of. How do Michael? Michael's gone. How do James?
Alan,
Yes?
can I ask you some advice, please?
You can ask.
Right. Last year I bought something from a shop which I found to be at fault. So I took the rod back. This is the fishing rod I bought. I took back and said, what's wrong with it? They then sent it away to be fixed. Came back after about 2 months. Still the same way as it was sent.
Tell them you want your money back. They've had every opportunity to repair it and seem to have blown it.
Well,
tell them you want your money back, but at least tell them you want a replacement rod. It's now news time.
The 11 o'clock news, this is Alan King. It's been revealed this evening that 3 more of the Queen's cousins were admitted to a Surrey mental hospital during the war. It was disclosed today that 2 of the Queen Mother's nieces have spent more than 40 years in the institution, and 1 is still alive. Tonight, Surrey Health Authority announced that the nieces' 3 cousins, all sisters, were admitted to the hospital at the same time. Maud Stewart, the vice-chairman of the Earlswood Hospital's League of Friends, who visits the Queen's relatives, says they all have a similar handicap.
The same. They're exactly the same. You know, they're all mentally handicapped, and that's it. They're all in the same boat.
Have they got the same sort of handicap?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Can you tell that they're related as well?
No. You can't really, no.
Mrs. Thatcher says the Russians really do want to get out of Afghanistan. She says her talks in Moscow with Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev have convinced her a troop withdrawal is planned, but she doesn't believe it's imminent. At a dinner honouring the Prime Minister of Pakistan, Mrs. Thatcher said she thought Mr. Gorbachev was the sort of man who can pull it off.
There is a new mood in the Soviet Union. So far, we have seen very few signs of it in Soviet policy abroad. But I do not believe that foreign policy can be insulated from internal change. And I'm more hopeful as a result of my visit to Moscow that we shall see progress in Afghanistan.
Yet another opinion poll is predicting a big Tory win at the general election. A Murray survey for tomorrow's Times forecast an overall Conservative majority of 92 seats. It's the 4th in 3 days to give the Tories a big lead, but government sources are heavily discounting claims from the SDP's David Owen that Mrs. Thatcher will call a May election. Despite the cool-down message, though, the Prime Minister had a meeting this afternoon with the senior ministers who make up her election strategy team. Snooker star Alex Hurricane Higgins has been banned from the sport for 6 months and fined a record £12,000 for headbutting a tournament official in Preston last year. Despite the ban, he will be allowed to play in the World Championship. Speaking on tonight's Wogan show, Higgins said the punishment could do him good.
The truth of the matter is that I've decided to accept the punishment and come back fighting because it's the only action one can take. It can be a blessing in disguise, I would think, in the respect that it'll give me 6 months to sort of enjoy 3 rounds of golf a week. I never run away from punishment in my life.
The Salvage team in Zeebrugge say they're on target to raise the Herald of Free Enterprise tomorrow. The team's boss, Hans Wallenkamp, made a final inspection today and pronounced himself satisfied.
The situation is okay. Everything is going on according to schedule. We had some delay Saturday night because of the increasing swell from the northwest. At the moment the weather is excellent, and we hope we're almost certain to start, let's say, early tomorrow morning.
Independent Radio News.
Ring him if you dare.
Allan Beswick, The Late Night Show.
And it's just after 3 minutes past 11. If you wish to join us on the phone in, the telephone number is Preston 56 1000.
Rebels Radio.
How do, Francis?
Hi, Alan. Just before you went off on your little break, you were talking about an old Jewish man that you knew in Axelrod on Smithdown Road.
Aye.
Well, I'm sorry to say, he passed away about 2 years ago.
Oh, well, we've all got to go, I suppose.
I suppose, but I do agree, he was lovely. I live just on Smithdown, and I managed to go in there every day, and he was a pleasure.
He was great fun. Well, he never went in on a Saturday because he would always shut. But he was grand, wasn't he?
He was.
Smashing. That's how shopkeepers should be.
But the people that are there now, they're all right, but they're not as nice as he was.
But you got used to him. They're probably just as nice.
That's it. I mean, it's just when you get used to something, it's hard to get used to another.
But do they open on a Sunday for the Catholics?
He certainly did.
From St Clair's. Good on you. All right.
Just one more thing before I go on.
Go on then.
A couple of weeks ago on Your Melodic Moments, you played a track from the Furies and Davy Arthur. Do you remember?
I don't remember, but there's only one track I ever play of theirs, because there's only me picks that. She was 16.
That's what I wanted to know. Is it you that picks the Melodic Moments?
Sometimes.
Do you like?
Not always.
Do you like the Furies?
I don't think so, but I like that song.
Because I've got a full tape of theirs. That one is honest.
Yeah, well, I like that song. I've not heard a lot of theirs, but I do like that song.
Anyway, I thought I'd ring.
All right, well, thank you for that.
Okay, bye.
Cheers.
Bye.
Hey, Mr. Axelrod, no longer with us. Where will people go for their cream cheese? How do, Jonathan?
How do, Alan? I think I can do your show better than you.
Well, I'm sure you could. Most people can.
Well, I think you're fat.
You're right on both counts. How do, Gerard?
Hello, Alan. I was just wanting a bit of advice, actually. During the weekend, my sister was beaten up, and I was just wondering how to go about claiming for compensation or damage, loss of earnings, etc.
Presumably you mean for her?
Yeah.
But she would have to fill in a form supplied by the Criminal Injuries Compensation Board.
What would the chances be of receiving this?
The chances are fairly high, providing the assault has been reported to the police.
Yeah, she gave, well, 3 of them were beaten up, you see, and they all gave statements. The person concerned, you see, the only problem was got a criminal record, and I don't know much more than that myself, but...
Well, it doesn't matter. The issue with the criminal injuries compensation isn't who did it, but was it done.
Oh, I see.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, the only time when there would be... Well, not the only time, but the major... In assault cases, the major time that it falls down as a claim is when the argument is that it wasn't an assault. In fact, it was a retaliation. In other words, if I walk up to you, bonk you on the snout, and you then kick the colours out of me, then I can't claim criminal injuries compensation because I started it.
Yeah.
Now, that's the issue that might arise, but in a normal assault, a mugging and the like, then you are entitled to it, almost always.
Okay?
You get a form or you can get the form from the police station, I think, but failing that, you'll get one from your Citizens Advice Bureau.
Okay, thanks.
How do, Peter?
I'm not Phil, Fallon.
Well, never mind. How do, line 8, Tom? How do, Alan?
Hello, Alan.
Yes?
I'd like to talk about the Obscene Publications Bill, please.
Go on.
I don't think that the decision as to what people can watch should be taken at government level.
Where should it be taken?
I think it should be taken by the TV companies, with consultation with the public and...
Well, that's difficult, though, isn't it? How are the television companies, or radio companies for that matter, going to consult with you?
Well, when something is shown which is deemed to be offensive by the public, people complain, and the TV stations can gauge what the reaction is to certain programmes, so TV companies now know what sort of programmes people find offensive.
But the problem there is that there is an element within our society that would not be offended by the most heinous, diabolically filthy programmes or the most disgracefully violent programmes. Are the television companies to cater for them?
I think the television companies should cater for everybody, yeah.
You see, when you think about it, and I do a programme that attracts some criticism, and I'm sure you find that hard to believe, but it's true, and my answer often is, OK, so we've this week had X number of complaints, but there's 100,000 people listening, so until we've got 51,000 or 50,001, we're doing all right, because more than half are enjoying it, and they've always got the option to turn off. So how can they gauge it? Just by complaints?
They can see if people find something really offensive.
How?
Because people complain and
Well, they complain. I mean, Mary Whitehouse complains about just about everything. She's complaining about EastEnders. Are the television company, in this case the network BBC, to take it off?
But there are certain programmes which offend such a great number of people, like Sebastian and Jubilee.
Well, unfortunately, whilst both those programmes were offensive, they didn't attract thousands of complaints. They attracted some.
Yeah,
how do you draw the line?
Well, I would leave up to the TV companies.
Well, OK, but you're suggesting that the power to decide should lie with the television companies. Your reason for saying so, or the way they should make that decision, is on the basis of counselling public opinion. Well, how are they going to do that?
Well, I think they've already know now what people find offensive and what people want to watch.
But there are certain things on television that exist on television. I personally don't watch them. That I believe to be unacceptable broadcasting. Now, that's my personal view. Now, if I turn on the television and I see a little triangle in the corner, I will watch that programme for a few moments and probably decide, almost exclusively decide, to turn it off because they bore me. And it doesn't upset me because I'm a big strapping lad, but it makes me think they really oughtn't to be on the television. So if I complain, now if you are, and I'm not suggesting you are, but if you're a person that enjoys that type of film, why should you lose it simply because me, some little nerd that can't cope, writes and complains?
I'm not necessarily saying that I should lose it. Well, what my main plan is that all programmes which do offend should, all across all 4 stations, all TV stations, should carry a warning triangle and be shown after 11 o'clock at night. And I think this new bill that says that any reasonable person might be offended by something, it shouldn't be shown. I think it's ludicrous because who this reasonable person is, who knows, And I think, things should be shown late at night with a triangle if it offends a lot of people.
All that the bill is attempting to do is to bring broadcasting into the, or species, if you like, into the range covered by the Act that is already there. That Act applies to newspapers, it applies to magazines and to the theatre.
It's this reasonable person thing I can't comprehend, because who is this reasonable person? I don't know. Do you know?
There is not such a thing as a reasonable person.
Precisely.
But it is a collective decision as to what a reasonable person would think. You've got to remember, if a case is brought on the obscene publications, it will ultimately end up in the Crown Court.
Yeah.
And the judge would direct the jury, which is 12, we hope, reasonable people, to come to a decision as to whether that film, book, whatever, would in fact offend a reasonable person. So the composite view held by those 12 people is the view of a reasonable person.
Well, to be frank with you, Alan, if it's a reasonable person ought to be in bed late at night instead of watching TV.
Well, the reasonable person may work till 10 o'clock at night. It may well be David Legg going home and got damn all else to do.
But a reasonable person ought to be in bed by the time these films come on and all these programmes pulling string out of the stomach and things like that.
Well, all I can say, Alan, is, yes, I agree with you. We should not be controlled by government, but I don't think we can counsel public opinion or have the television companies, who obviously have an axe to grind counselling the public. I think they should bung them on and let the public decide whether they watch them or not, because there is a little button on the front of the box anyway.
Well, if we agree, there must be something wrong somewhere.
It's probably you. Ta-ra.
Bye.
How do Roger? No, Roger. How do Tom? Well, we upset Tom before by calling him Tom when his name was Alan. How do? Oh, James. How do James?
Alan.
Yes.
I told you before about the fishing rod.
Yes.
And you told me to demand my money back.
Yes.
Well...
Have you done so?
Right, well, I did
Have you done so?
I did do.
And they said?
And they said, well, we'll give you another rod, a different type, out the shop. And I refused.
Why were they going to give you a different type?
Well, it's what they had in. At the same value of what I paid for my own rod.
Why did you refuse?
Because what they had I didn't want. I wanted the one that I bought.
Then are they going to supply you with one similar to the one you bought?
They said they would, so they sent it off the rod. And it was about 3 months. I then went in and demanded me money.
So it's
back.
now been away for 5 months?
No, yeah, on whole it was, yeah, eventually.
Yes.
I went in, I demanded me money back then, and I got a load of abuse from them. They got the rod back, I received it, and it was totally different to the one I bought, by means of which the rod...
It was different. We don't need an explanation. I will accept that it was different.
Yeah.
That's enough. What do you want to know now?
Well, I then asked for my money back then because I didn't like it.
What is the situation now?
They won't give me the money back.
Did you try the new rod?
I couldn't use it. If I tried it, therefore I would have had to open the wrapper and everything.
Just a simple yes or no. Did you try the new rod?
No.
That's all I need. What I suggest you do is write a letter to the manager of the shop telling him you want a full cash refund, and if you don't get it within 14 days, you will sue them in the county court. Okay?
Okay.
How do Jason?
Hello, Alan. There's a fella, right, and he goes to the opticians, and he says, look, optician, I'm having trouble with my sight, I'm short-sighted. And the optician says, well, look out the window, and what's that bright, shiny thing you can see
How
there?
far do you want to see?
Oh,
Dunno. How do Dean? How do Roger?
Good evening, Alan. I'd like to talk about precision tuning of FM.
How do Gina? How do Tina?
Oh, hello, Alan. Just wanted to ask you, first of all, have you enjoyed your 3 days break last week?
Yes, thanks. What can we do for you?
I was wondering if you could possibly give me some advice.
I don't know.
I bought a 3-piece suite 18 months ago off a mail order catalogue. I only had it 3 months and it broke. So after, I don't know how many phone calls and letters to them, I eventually got a letter back off them to say that I couldn't have the same suite because they didn't deal with that manufacturer anymore, and would I pick a replacement out, which I did. But they didn't have the colour I wanted, so I had to change the colour anyway, which meant changing all my decor and that.
What's the situation now, love?
Well, this one's gone on me now, and I've wrote them,
How long have you had this one?
since October.
5 months.
Yeah. And I've wrote them 3 letters, and the last one I wrote them was 8 weeks ago. But I still haven't heard anything from them. I've told them...
Are you the agent on the catalogue?
No, it's my mother-in-law's.
It's your mother-in-law. Good
Yeah.
Lord. Have you paid her?
Yes.
Are you still paying her?
Yes.
Write to the company and say that you no longer wish to have the suite in your property. You have lost faith in the suite. You have lost faith in their ability to supply you with a suite of merchantable quality, and tell them that you want all your payments to date back and see what happens.
Yeah.
Okay?
Okay, thank you.
How do Ruth?
Hello.
Hello.
Can you tell me, what is it you have to do to get on it's your turn on a Sunday?
You have to work some kind of miracle, I'm afraid. It's very difficult.
I've tried several times, and I'm nearly bald by the time I've,
Bald? I don't understand that.
out.
Oh, I see. I wondered what made your hair fall out.
It's just a case of patience, is it?
Yes, which I'm told is a virtue, but not one I'm over-endowed with.
Very true.
It's the only way, Ruth. I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Ta-ra.
Good night.
Emma and her little gang had been tea-partying furiously ever since breakfast. The 5 dolls, the teddy, the mouse, and the green thing with eyes were quite exhausted. Mother's suggestion that they all take a nap seemed wise indeed. So Emma made everyone lie down. She fetched a towel as a blanket and a roll of lovely soft Kleenex velvet toilet tissue as a pillow for Teddy. And as she tucked it beneath his head, she was sure she heard him say thank you.
Kleenex Velvet. Softness is our strength.
Igor! I have solved another of the great mysteries of the universe.
What's that, Master?
It's the secret of looking after your day-to-day finances.
Finances, Master?
Yes, it's a new account from Britannia.
Britannia, Master?
Yes, Igor. It offers bank account facilities, with Building Society Interest.
Interest, Master?
You get a checkbook and a cash card.
Cash card, Master?
Of course, and with over 800 linked cash machines, you'll never have to go far for your money.
Money, Master?
Well done, Igor. I knew you'd get there eventually.
Eventually, Master?
Money Master, bank account facilities, Building Society Interest, at your nearest Britannia Building Society branch now.
Stay tuned next week for another great Red Rose Radio contest. If you can answer 4 motoring questions and your letter's first out of the hat, then you can pick any single item as your prize from the Halford Service Centre in Preston. It could be anything from a brand new bike to a magnificent car stereo system. So don't forget those questions will be coming your way next week. Don't move the dial.
Don't move the dial? I'll do Jonathan. No, Jonathan. Who've we got on line where, Alice? Where are we going? I'm lost. Oh, I see. I'll do Jonathan. I'll do Chris. It must be cheese and onion, Chris. I'll do line 3. Who could that be? Keith.
How do, Alan?
I'll do.
Good evening to you.
It
It's
is
advice
you.
I'm after, Alan.
I see.
I'm a supporter of a football club, Alan. Could you tell me, do you have any knowledge of what lengths a football club can take to protect the perimeter, Alan? Excuse me. Regarding...
The question, what lengths can they take, requires an answer that will cover about 4 hours. You tell me what they've done that you don't like.
Well, there's a perimeter wall up, Alan, but in my opinion, it's not high enough. And what's happening, you might say throw the buggers in, but what we're trying to do is keep them out. Now, do you know anything on the barbed wire protection, Alan?
I think if you put barbed wire or glass, you become responsible if anybody injures themselves on it.
Is that so, Alan? Yeah.
I would have thought so. The top of a surrounding wall of the pitch. Are you talking about outside the perimeter of the ground or the perimeter of the pitch itself?
Ground,
right. Yeah. I think the rules are that if you put barbed wire or broken glass, you see it in the cement on the top of the wall. I think if somebody injures themselves on that, you could be liable. Why don't you check that? Because quite honestly, it's too important to listen to a divvy on the radio. Ring your Citizens Advice Bureau and ask them. Or if the club's got a solicitor that plays, if it's an amateur club that plays, ask him.
That's right, Alan, yeah.
All right?
Yeah, thanks, Alan.
But it's not as easy to protect your property as you might think. Okay?
Okay, thanks.
I'll do Christine.
I do, Alan. I'm phoning up about this girls' night out.
Yes.
Again, I have phoned before. Will we be getting written information?
You will be getting... I actually spoke to the Grand today. We've had to leave it to the last moment so they knew exactly how many tickets we needed. The tickets should be with me tomorrow. They will be sent out first class the following day if they are. If not, it'll be Thursday. And you will actually receive a ticket to the Grand. You will also receive details of where and at what time to collect your bus if you're going on one.
Yeah, well, that's all I phoned up for. Because,
well, that's it.
You know, I thought, well, there's only...
We've had to leave it... I know, we've had to leave it to the last minute, because if we'd have ordered more tickets than we needed, it'd have been unfair on the Grand, because, let's face it, they're giving them us for naught.
Yeah.
And it would have upset them, and quite right too, and it would have also upset the cast of Jesus Christ Superstar that we're going to see.
Right.
All right? And I can tell everybody that it's damn near a sellout on Monday night. We're going on Tuesday night, and Jesus Christ Superstar runs for the next 2 weeks at the Grand.
Right, okay, Alan.
We're going to have a good time, aren't we, Christine?
Well, I'm looking forward to meeting you.
I'm not coming, it's a girls' night out. I'm not having an operation just to watch a play.
Yeah, well, I thought you were going on.
Of course I'm going, there's no flies on me, I'll be there.
So will we get to meet you as well?
I think there's every chance.
Oh, good.
All right.
Right,
Cheers,
thanks.
love. Ta-ra.
Ta-ra.
I'll do David.
Hello, Alan. I'd like to see if you can give me a bit of advice on a used car, please. I recently bought a car 16 days ago. It's since been in the garage 3 times, having faults rectified. Since then, I picked the car up again tonight from the garage. One of the faults, a major fault, hasn't been repaired on the car. Can you tell me what sort of legal rights I have against the garage?
Well, did you point out to them that it's not been repaired?
Not since I picked it up. I picked it up 5 minutes before the garage closed tonight. I will be getting back in touch with them first thing in the morning.
Well, I would imagine that you're entitled to have it repaired. They presumably were repairing it because they are liable to do so, and if they fail to do so, then I suggest that they're still liable.
They have tried to repair this fault on 3 separate occasions, as I say, within the last 16 days now. The fault is still there. Am I entitled by law to say to them, well, keep your car?
The answer is possibly not, because it's so difficult with second-hand cars. What you have to remember is you're buying a car that somebody didn't want, otherwise they'd still have it.
That's right.
So when you buy a second-hand car, you have to expect a second-hand car. You're not entitled to expect a new one, or even one that runs as new. If the problem is one that could be attributed to the normal wear and tear for a car of that age, then you're stuck with it. If the problem is one that is beyond that, then it could be argued that you're entitled to have it repaired, or alternatively your money back. But I would have thought that the choice of those alternatives lies with the garage rather than you. But second-hand cars is very difficult.
Yeah, I thought it would be something.
Are you in the AA? Or the RAC?
RAC, yes.
Well, if you give them a ring, they'll explain your rights to you in detail, because they're the specialists.
Oh, okay.
All right, mate?
Right.
I'll do Barbara. Barbara's fed up. I'll do Ian.
Hello, Alan.
Yep.
I ordered a record from a local store about 3 months ago, and she told me it would be here within a week to 10 days, and it still hasn't come. Can I have a cash refund? Because I put a deposit down.
It depends on the terms of your cash deposit. What were the terms at the time?
Well, she told me to put down £1 deposit.
What were the terms?
She just asked me to sign a form. There's nothing on the form. It just states that you've ordered this record and £1 deposit's paid.
Full stop.
Yeah.
Were you assured at the time that you would be supplied with the record within X time?
She promised it within a week to 10 days.
You could be entitled to your refund. The difficulty might lie in that you've paid a deposit for them to supply the record. The question that remains unanswered is what is a reasonable time for the supply of a record. Obviously, if it's the latest chart hit, then they should be able to supply it fairly quickly. But if it's an obscure record that's difficult to locate, then they may well be entitled to wait. I ordered a video recently, and that video, I've been told twice, would be ready and available for my collection by the weekend, and on both occasions it wasn't. Now, as it happens, I didn't pay a deposit, but had I done so, I would have thought on the second occasion I'd be entitled to that deposit back, given that they've failed to honour it.
Yeah.
Okay?
Every time I go down, you see now, she says it'll be on the Friday, and it never has been in.
Well, all I can suggest then is next time you go down, take a letter with you, and if she says it'll be on Friday, hand her the letter and say, fine, it'll be in on Friday. You've got 7 days in which to supply it, in which case the order is then cancelled and I want my quid back.
Right.
But I won't bother suing them, because for a quid it's going to be a lot of earache. All right?
Right, thanks.
We shall talk to Dean next.
Carpets, wool carpets, foam back carpets, Axminster carpets, all sorts of carpets. Prices from only 50 pence a square yard at the Carpet Supermarket, Fletcher Road off Ribbleton Lane, Preston. Open 7 days a week.
Also at Long Lane, Aintree.
Tuesday the 18th. Dear Mum and Dad, having a lovely time. Weather fair, but accommodation perfect. I'm writing this in a fantastic static caravan. Plenty of space inside, with luxurious modern facilities and traditional homely charm. There are lots of statics here. This one's great, home from home, and we haven't even bought it yet. We're still at Westfield Caravans.
A static van gives you the best of both worlds, the luxury of a holiday cottage and the low-cost benefits of caravanning. It's the ideal holiday home on any site of your choice. Visit the only static caravan specialists, Westfield Caravans, at the end of Mowbray Drive, Blackpool. Phone 301 505.
Wish you were here. Love, Sue.
Westfield Caravans. We'll make you feel at home.
The cost of a single CD from HMV is $11.99. But at the same time, you can buy another for only $9.99 and another for only $9.99.
Buy your single compact disc for $11.99 and buy as many as you like at the same time for only $9.99 each. The more you buy, the more you save. This special offer ends April 25. CDs come cheaper at HMV, Victoria Street, Blackpool and Marketplace, Preston. HMV, the world's best music stores.
I'll do, Dean.
I'll do, Alan. I was wondering what you thought about these civil servants going on strike for more pay.
What do you think about it?
Well, I think it's atrocious.
Why?
Why? Well, they get enough pay as it is, don't they?
Well, they don't think so.
Well, I do.
some of the people working on the benefits side of the DHSS actually pay out to individuals more than they receive in wages, and those individuals are sat at home.
Yeah, but what about all the poor families and whatnot, and they go to get the jail to sign on and whatnot, and they can't get no money for weeks on end because they're on strike? What do they think about that?
But that applies to everybody in any kind of service industry that strikes. If the bus driver goes on strike, it's the passenger that's left at the bus stop. If the post office go on strike, it's you or I that don't get our post office mail. If the television companies go on strike, it's you that's gotten out to watch. There's always a victim of a strike, but it's not necessarily the case that the person who is withdrawing his or her labour is the one to blame.
Yeah, I don't think they should be allowed to go on strike because they're doing a public service job, really, aren't they?
But if they're not allowed to go on strike, their wages will never be increased. They'll be paid appallingly, because if the government can forbid them from striking, they're just going to rip them off. I mean, why should a person, just because they work for the government, why should they not have the same rights as everybody else? Because quite honestly, we can then argue that the bin men shouldn't go on strike because they're supplying a very necessary public service. The hospitals wouldn't dream of going on strike. The firemen shouldn't go on strike. The prison service shouldn't go on strike. Bus drivers shouldn't. The local bread man shouldn't go on strike because he's supplying you with bread, and what's more important than the food in your belly? So at the end of the day, the water board shouldn't go on strike. In fact, nobody should go on strike. Even the man who makes the sprocket that goes on the wheel, that goes on the car, shouldn't go on strike, because it puts out of work those people that sell cars, and they, of course, pay tax, which means the Inland Revenue get less work, which they're civil servants. I mean, how long are you going to draw this line?
Oh, OK, then, I'll set you word on that, but I still think they're wrong in doing so.
Why are they wrong?
Well, they shouldn't do it, should they?
Why?
Do the police go on strike? No.
They're not the police. The police are doing very nicely financially.
Yeah, and so are the civil servants.
Well, that's a matter of opinion. Some civil servants
You know how
are
much
paid...
the head of the civil servant gets?
But it's not the head that's on strike.
Well, they must
It's not the head of civil service that's on strike, it's the lackeys.
OK, well, fair enough.
The people at the bottom of the pile don't get a lot, probably because the head gets so much. But the people at the bottom of the pile don't get a big deal.
Well, OK, I think...
How much do you think the lowest paid civil servant earns?
Yeah, well over £300 a week, well over.
You reckon the person working on the supplementary benefit office desk gets 300 quid a week?
Oh, of course they do, yeah.
You're talking... Well, allow me to tell you that you are talking complete and utter nonsense.
Am I?
They earn nothing like £300 a week. There are people working in civil service earning, believe it or not, less than £150 a week. So, on your say-so, I would agree with you. If they were getting 300 quid a week minimum, then I think it would be a little untoward for them to strike, although I would defend their right to do so. But they're not on 300 brick a week, I promise you. Sorry, Dean. Johnny, we're just going to do a time check, then we'll talk to you. We've got to do a time check because it's one of these, 11:30.
Daytime, nighttime, anytime, but sometime, visit the New Market and M2 Market, Waterloo Road, Blackpool.
How do, Johnny?
Hello, Alan. I can tell you now. You still there?
Yes, thank you.
Oh, I can tell you how a potato got called a spud.
This is years old.
Yeah.
We haven't had this on the programme for yonks.
I just suddenly remembered tonight.
Oh, I'm glad to hear it. Go on, then.
Well, it goes back to the last century when, just before we peeled the corn laws. And he did so because the Irish potato crop had failed. There was starvation in Ireland. And there was a man called Arnold Spud, believe it or not, a guy called Arnold Spud. And, of course, the people in Ireland were starving. So, they seen this guy called Arnold Spud. And he actually looked like a potato, right? So they skinned him alive like they did the potatoes and ate him.
Do you know any other good jokes?
That's not a joke.
Is it not?
No.
Must be you that's the joke, then. How do, James?
Jim, is it?
Jim will settle for.
Yeah. Hello there.
How do?
Could you give me some of your ethical advice that you're very good at?
Ethical?
Yeah.
I don't think that ethics are my bag, but go on.
You used to be a
medical student, didn't you?
No.
No, what did you used to be? A nurse?
A psychiatric nurse, yes.
Is that the only profession you've had in the medical?
That's all I've done anywhere near the medical profession, yes, but that's not the medical profession, that's the nursing profession.
Anyway, what I'm ringing up about, do you think it's a good idea to offer your body for medical research?
Yes.
You do. Very good. But I'm thinking of before you die. You probably think...
Well, I'd prefer that they waited till you were dead.
Well, there are other means of offering your body while you're alive. They've got to sit on some human being, haven't they?
You can offer your body whilst you are still alive, but you cannot offer your living body.
I think you can, because medical students do this and they get paid for it.
Let me stop you a second.
Yeah.
I'm trying to show you the difference. There is a distinction. The two sentences mean something different. You can offer your body, your sarcophagus, I think it's called, your dead body, whilst you're alive, because let's face it, when you're dead it's a bit difficult to express your decision.
Okay.
But you cannot offer your living body. You can't say, OK, take me now, because I've got naught to live for.
Yeah, I don't think you understand what I mean. Sort of testing drugs on people, so they get their reaction. You can't test a drug on a dead body, can you?
No, you can't. I know what you mean now.
Yeah.
You can offer your body for some drug experimentation. It's not easy to do. For example, there's the Cold Cure Centre that have people going there for 7 days and 14 days at a time, and they have people going back every year. There are people, my own father-in-law agreed to undertake a drug test. But I don't mean like an horse in the National. I mean, to allow his condition to be part of a drug trial. I don't think you can actually offer your body to a drug company and say, go on, experiment on me, squirt it in, see what it does. But if you have a particular condition, you can be a party to what's known as a test.
Yeah. Well, I've asked the doctor who's sort of looking after, and he in no way goes on this sort of theory. I think you have to go to a research centre, is that it?
Well, no, you don't necessarily have to go to a research centre. As I said earlier, my father-in-law was involved in a drug, and what they did in...
How would you go? Who would you ask? If your own GP doesn't want to know about it.
If your own GP doesn't want to know about it, you've got yourself a problem. You can't really get beyond him, because he's the person that's going to be prescribing drugs to you. Now, the only method of using and offering your body for research is the method I'm about to tell you. When my father-in-law was being treated for a condition, I'm not going to tell you that because that's his business, but he was being treated for a condition, and the condition wasn't, in fact, improving any great deal. He then went to the doctors and said, look, I'm getting fed up of this, what's going to happen? And the doctor said, well, there's some new drugs out, but they're on trial, because every drug has to undergo clinical trials, as they're called, and you can involve yourself in that if you like. And it was some months later, after he'd agreed and underwent this clinical trial, that he discovered that the drug that he'd been taking was in fact a dummy. It wasn't a drug at all. It was a straightforward little tablet of chalk, if you like. It looked identical to the drug itself, but that's how they do it, you see. Somebody's given a Duff and somebody's given the real McCoy, and they see what the difference is. In actual fact, he improved slightly with a Duff, but some of that is psychosomatic anyway, I'm sure. So that kind of thing can involve, if your GP is part of the organisation, if you like, can involve you. Whether you can actually volunteer to go to a centre and be an experimented creature, rather like with an animal, I do not know.
So I've heard about medical doctors, when students, that they, in the profession, they do it for a certain amount of money.
No,
that was true.
I've not heard of that. May be true, but I've not heard of it. You see, the problem with that is we don't actually develop drugs unless they're to alleviate a condition. Aspirins for 1,000 different things. We have painkillers. There is little point in giving an individual a painkiller as an experiment unless the guy's in pain. He's not going to tell whether it works or not. I suppose you could give him a painkiller, then hit him with a brick. That might do him, but it doesn't quite work like that.
Yeah, Yeah. I see. Well, you don't really answer my question there.
Let us just assume that somebody invents or thinks they've invented a new drug to help reduce tachycardia. That's a fast heartbeat.
Yeah.
Now, they can get this drug and they can administer it to an individual and see whether it reduces tachycardia. But they can't do that unless the person's got it in the first place. It's no good giving me a drug to alleviate something stupid like a red finger. I've somehow got a red finger. Unless I've got that red finger, they're not going to be able to tell whether the drug works or not.
But they wouldn't know if there was a reaction to the body, like a doctor say he's perfect health, say they would know if it reacted to him, like killed him, or...
They'd certainly spot it if it killed him, yes, but they're not likely to prescribe a drug to somebody just to find out whether it's going to do him any harm or not, because the most important part of the drug, once they've alleviated the death bit, is will it cure the condition? But I may be wrong.
You'd go for it, would you? Go for it, then. Go for it in a big way.
I wouldn't, no. I don't approve of the use of drugs anyway, except in very...
What's the answer then? Top yourself?
If that's what you want, get on with it.
Well, if you're in pain?
Well...
Murder? What do you do? Top yourself?
I don't think whether you're in pain or not has any bearing on whether you offer your body for experiments.
Well, it's another way out besides stopping yourself, and you're doing something...
Well, if you're suggesting that by offering your body for experiment, the medical profession is going to experiment on you unto your death, let me tell you, they will not.
Well, I thought I could do some bloody...
Well, you won't do any good by that, because no one will permit you to. They cannot, under any circumstances within the legislation we have at the moment, experiment on you unto your death. That is euthanasia. That is a criminal offence.
If you offered yourself...
Whatever you offer, you can sign every bit of paper in the world. If somebody takes your life, with or without your approval, they are either murdering you, if it is without your approval, or they are actually taking part in euthanasia, if it's with your approval. That is a criminal offence for which they will be tried, convicted, and possibly even banged in the slammer. And if they are a doctor doing an experiment with a drug, there is a fair chance they'll end up banged in the slammer.
Well, you just told me there's no answer, so the only way out is to stop yourself.
Well, I hope you do it in a painless way. How do Tony? No, Tony. How do Stephen?
Man, Alan. Could you tell me what position you played for Ormskirk Rugby Club?
Not very many good ones. I think I was a blindside wing 3/4.
Right.
But I wasn't very good.
Right.
I'm still not. How do Darren? Hello, Darren? Never mind, Darren. How do Gerard?
Oh, good evening, Alan.
Good evening.
Nice to speak to you. It's my
I
first
know
time
it is. What do you want?
I'd just like to know your opinion on
Well,
dogs.
tell me yours, and then we'll say
Well,
beating about
dogs
the
and
bush.
their dog owners.
Tell me your
crapping everywhere.
Well, I don't think the dog owners do crap everywhere. How do Phil? Never mind, Phil. Line 7 is... Who? How do Dickie?
Oh, yeah, about time, Sue. Listen, Alan, if drinking and driving is banned, why do they have car parks in pubs?
Because the car parks are not built by the lawmakers.
But surely it encourages it.
It may well encourage it. It certainly makes it easier. But I know lots of pubs that haven't got car parks, and all you end up there is cars parked all down the street.
But the majority of them do.
I wouldn't like to know that. I wouldn't like to say whether the majority do, but certainly the car park in the pub that I very occasionally go into doesn't encourage me to drink and drive. I park my car in the car park, I wander into the public house, and then I drink non-alcoholic drinks. So I don't necessarily agree that a car park does encourage you to drink and drive. It certainly facilitates it, but it doesn't encourage it.
Oh.
I think the person, when they go out, has decided to do it in the first place.
But what would you rather be, or a what?
How do Caroline?
Hello, Alan.
Yes.
I'm ringing up, actually.
I know.
The gentleman before who was talking about the civil servant strike.
Yes.
He's totally wrong. I'm actually a civil servant.
Can you lend us a few quid? Because I know how much you earn now, because he told me none of you earn less than 300 quid a week. So can you lend us
rubbish.
Oh, no, I believe him. Lends a tenner.
I am actually on £68 a week.
68?
68.
Full-time?
Full-time.
Are you a trainee?
No.
What do you do?
I'm in the Department of Employment, the Unemployment Benefit Office.
Mm-hmm.
I'm only 18 years of age. I admit that's quite a good wage for 18 years of age. But there are married men there who are on no more than £6,500, £7,000, and this is to support a family.
Absolutely.
How
We told him this.
Expect?
He would be surprised to discover how many DHSS employees receive FIS, or Family Income Supplement, as we must call it. There are dozens of them.
He also mentioned that people's pay would be interrupted. Yes, it will be interrupted, but they are getting paid. There is no need, really, for people to worry.
Explain.
Well, they are getting things known as advances and stuff.
But an advance certainly would alleviate the problem. Let us say we give them, or you give them, 1 week's advance. What if you're on strike for 2 weeks? They will then be without brass.
But there are people who aren't in the union, who are working in the offices to alleviate the problem. We are trying, of course,
Caroline.
strike is to stop people, to realise people, yes?
The truth is that people are going to suffer as a result of your strike. You can dress it up how you like, but they are. Because if they don't, you shouldn't damn well get paid at all. You should be sacked.
Do you think that people who work with the public have no rights to strike?
Caroline, I've already argued with our earlier caller that you do have the right. I'm now arguing with you because you tried to sell me a lie. You tried You tried to sell me this package that no one's going to suffer.
No, I'm not saying no one's
They are going to suffer,
Alan,
Caroline.
you're putting words into my mouth.
I'm not.
You are. No, I'm not
Caroline,
saying people aren't going to suffer, Alan.
Caroline,
Don't interrupt, Alan.
You did say that, Caroline. You may not have wanted to. You may not have meant to.
Alan, it's bad
but
manners to interrupt.
It's also bad manners to lie, Caroline.
Alan, I think you really need to get your facts right before you talk to people like that.
I talk to people how I like, rather like you do in the office sometimes. However, Caroline...
I think that is totally derogatory. You shouldn't say things that you don't know.
Nothing is totally derogatory. You're going off on a tangent that will do you no good at all. Can we come back to the point you made, and that is that you are paying them advances and there are non-union staff continuing to work. The implication of that statement is that people will not suffer. I am prepared to accept that that will reduce...
If you think that implies that, then fair enough.
I will accept that that will reduce the number of people who may suffer, but people will suffer. That is factual. And let me tell you, Caroline, that if they don't, you ought to be made redundant immediately. Because if they don't suffer when you're not there, you might as well not be there at all. Correct?
I take your point, yeah.
I rather thought you might.
Way of getting things around things.
That is my job. Yours is to get to work and pay the benefit, but when you've had your strike.
To get paid being the point.
All right. Anyway, I wish you luck with it. It could be a long one, love.
Yeah, I know.
Ta-ra.
Good night.
Another one for the Beswick Almanac. How do, Tommy?
How do, Alan? How are you, Alan?
I'm very well, thank you.
Right, I've rung up about the same subject as your last caller.
Go on.
Now, I'm a bit like yourself here. I want to agree with both sides. In one respect, I agree with that lad, in that certain service industries shouldn't be able to strike. But having said that, the reason for that should be that they shouldn't have to strike because they should be paid a decent wage in the first place. I would like to...
What is a decent wage, Tommy?
Well, at the end of the day, you see, I'd have to disagree with you.
The answer to the question, what is a decent wage, is a number. It's nothing else, it's a number.
I think there should be a minimum wage anyway.
Yes, well, that isn't...